The Injured Senior Podcast is here to help. Like it or not, the senior and elderly population is vulnerable to negligence committed by medical professionals, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, pharmaceutical and medical device companies, insurance companies, and everyday individuals and businesses. Your host, Steve Heisler, creator of the National Injured Senior Law Center, has been advocating for seniors' rights for over 30 years and is bringing you answers to your questions. This is the Injured Senior Podcast.
Hello to all in our injured senior and elderly community. This is your buddy, Steve Heisler, founder and CEO of the National Injured Senior Law Center, and you are tuned in to a new episode of the Injured Senior Podcast. The Injured Senior Podcast, for new listeners, is a show that is dedicated to discussing medical and legal issues of vital importance to the injured senior and elderly community and their families and caregivers. We are sponsored by the National Injured Senior Law Center. Injuries to seniors and the elderly can be incredibly debilitating, my friends, and they can rob you of your life savings. If you believe your injury was caused by no fault of your own, go to www.injuredseniorhotline.com or call 877-228-4878 to see if you have recourse. They can help. So we have an interesting show for you today, my friends. We have a guest on who is going to talk about sex and older adults. Now, I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to be an X-rated show today. I'm not going to play Hugh Hefner for the episode. No, we're going to have a serious, frank discussion with our guest about the ridiculous stereotypes regarding sexuality in older adults. We also are going to chat about sex and when one partner is a caregiver and sex in long-term care facilities. Now, these are topics that I'm sure are on just about everyone's minds, but rarely talked about. I think you will definitely find the information that we are going to extract from our guest to be informative and enlightening. So, friends, our guest is Dr. Nicole Didyk. She likes to go by Dr. Nicole, and she is out of the great country of Canada. She received her medical degree at McMaster University, where she did her training in internal medicine and geriatrics, and she also received a master's in education. She has a busy community geriatric practice in Southern Ontario and is also the founder of The Wrinkle, which is a website and YouTube channel that helps you make the connections you need to age successfully. Welcome to the show, Dr. Nicole. How you doing today?
I'm well. Thanks so much, Steve.
It's great to have you. Now, I've got to ask you, how is the weather as we speak this mid-February day? How's the weather in Southern Ontario?
You know what? It's beautifully sunny, and there is a lot of snow, which is beautiful and white and clean and kind of sparkly. But it's about, I don't know the temperature in Fahrenheit. It's about -9 degrees Celsius.
And that's -9 Celsius?
Yeah.
That's not comprehensible by us. But let's just say
you want to wear
like
a hat.
You're bundled up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're not outside doing this, but
and a scarf.
I'm
inside now.
You're not doing this outside on your deck, right? You're actually
That's
inside.
right.
But when you go outside, how long does it take before you actually can get frostbite?
Frostbite would take a long time. Like, this is not quite frostbite territory, but I could probably walk for about 30 minutes or so, 30, 40 minutes, and then probably my nose and fingers would be really cold.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so just
make sure you stay under 40 minutes. We don't want you to have to lose any body parts.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. You got it. Let's start off with your contention that there is ageism, I guess, in our general communities when it comes time to sexuality in older adults. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I think so. And I think, I think that we have stereotypes about older adults and sex. So one of the big ones is that it's so cute when older people, kiss or hold hands or something. Like it's almost like making them childish, which isn't correct. And then there's other stereotypes where that older adults are kind of oversexed. So like there's a dirty old man, or there's a cougar, the older woman who's kind of predatory. And neither one of those stereotypes are really accurate. And so I would say that they're ageist. And I think older adults, have a sexuality component to their lives, and certainly sexual health is important as people get older. So if we ignore that, then it does a disservice to older adults.
So you said the dirty old man and the cougar. So basically, if an older adult has a healthy sex drive, then they're automatically labeled as a dirty old man or a cougar, correct?
They could be. Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think it, like to think that an older man just, wants to have a sex life like everyone else, like a 30-year-old or even a 25-year-old, I think that he should be allowed to do that without being labeled.
Right. And is it any more different now because people in their 60s, I guess 60 is the new 40, so we're living longer, we're, I believe, living healthier and getting into our 70s and 80s and still having very healthy eating habits and doing physical activities. So could that be a reason why also that it's that there may be more of an interest in sexual activity as a senior?
I think so, and I think you're right. I think people want to have kind of full lives as they get older, right? So having a sexual component to your life is part of life, just like just like the other components of life, like physical activity and exercise and wanting to socialize with people, and even I think people are working later in life as well. Right? Not everybody is sort of retiring in their 60s and that. So having a healthy sex life is just another part of living. So if you're older but still alive, you can still have sex. But it might be different. There might be some different things about sexuality as people get older, but it's still important.
That makes sense. So then why is it that you think there should be more awareness about sexuality in the older age group?
Well, I think, and especially as a healthcare provider, I actually read a survey that said little more than 50% of geriatricians, so this is people like myself who specialize in looking after older people, little more than 50% of us actually ask about sexual health when we do our assessments. So we ask about bowel movements, we ask about sleep, but we don't always ask about sex. And when we miss out on asking about it, we're missing out on, letting a person talk about it and maybe talk to us about maybe they have issues with their sexual health. So like an older woman might want to talk about how sexual intercourse has become uncomfortable. And, what can she do about that? And what are the reasons for that? Is there any medical investigations, or is there anything we can do? Because if that's something a patient is experiencing, it could be really getting in the way of their relationships. So if we don't ask, we won't hear about it, and then we'll miss out on giving somebody comprehensive, good health care.
So it starts with the medical profession as well. It's not just conversation amongst families, but also the medical profession has to be a little more involved in asking these questions, because in the end, it has to do with the overall health, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that if we ask about it and sort of create space for it, things will come out. And then we might be able to do something. We can't always, but sometimes there are medical things that we can do or investigate or recommend. So
how does sex change with aging? Now, I just said, we're getting older, but we're leading healthier lives, and medicine has enabled us to live longer. What does change though which is the normal process of aging as
Sure.
far as sex.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I think about it, I usually think about the changes that can happen with the different sexes. So for example, with a woman, there is a change in sort of the tissues of the sexual organs. So there can be some dryness. There can be what we call atrophy or a little bit of shrinkage. So that's a pretty normal part of aging, but there are medications, there are lubricants, and there are things that can be done to kind of address that. And then for men, that's one thing about the little blue pill is I think that there's been a lot more discussion about male sexual function as people age. So there are, it's not a necessarily normal part of aging, but it's much more common in older men to have some erectile dysfunction. So that could be trouble getting an erection, or sustaining one, or anything along the lines of male sexual function can change. So those are, and then if you add in certain medical conditions, they can affect sexual function as well. So the changes I just talked about are kind of normal changes, but then we know that in older adults there are some conditions that are more common as people get older. So they're not normal, but they're more common. So that might be things like high blood pressure and diabetes and cardiac disease, and so those can affect sexual function as well. So they might affect the person's energy for sexual activity, or there might be arthritis, which could make some sex painful, or the person might be on medications that might affect their libido or their sexual response. So all of those things are things that can change with aging. But what doesn't change is the need for connection and interaction. That stays the same.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. That definitely makes a lot of sense. Can you tell us a little bit about your website, The Wrinkle? I was on it, and it's an incredible website. It's got so much content, so much information.
Sure, thank you. So my website is called thewrinkle.ca because I'm Canadian. And so it's just like the wrinkles on your face, The Wrinkle. And I started it because I found that after doing geriatrics for 20 years, I was kind of seeing people with the same challenges, and I was telling them the same stuff over and over. So I decided to just write it down and do some blogs and some videos on YouTube, and then put it all up on this website. And, I just have a passion for sharing information. I think when older adults and their families know, when they have knowledge and when they can make those key connections with each other and with healthcare providers, they can really age much more successfully. So that's what The Wrinkle is all about. And I'd love for people to check it out, and they can send me a comment and let me know what else they want to see on there.
That's great. So they can get to the website at www.thewrinkle.ca.
That's right. Yeah. And if you search my name or The Wrinkle on YouTube, you can find me there too. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram and all the socials. So all those links are on the website too.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks again, Dr. Didyk, or Dr. Nicole, sorry.
Sure.
And by the way,
good.
Didyk is Didyk. So in case someone's trying to search her, they're like, oh my God, I don't know if I can find Dr. Nicole, but they'll be able to find Dr. Nicole Didyk.
Thank you.
Listen, we can't wait to have you back because, there's so many issues that I just, perusing your website, I'm like, God, I really want to talk about this, or I really want to talk about that. So we are definitely planning on having you back, Dr. Nicole. Thanks so much for spending some time with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for doing this podcast.
Injured senior and aging population. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I want to thank again Dr. Nicole Didyk for appearing on the show today. She was fantastic. If you love the Injured Senior podcast, we would love for you to subscribe, rate, give us a review on any of your favorite podcast platforms. If you want to share a story about anything of interest to the injured senior community regarding a medical or legal issue, You can email me at steve@injuredseniorhotline.com, or you could go to our website, injuredseniorpodcast.com, and leave a message. You just click on leave a message and you can talk, and we will get the message and get back to you. Until next time, my friends, I am so looking forward to talking to you next week with a new episode. Stay well, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Injured Senior Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, please rate, subscribe, review, and share on Apple, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Connect with us at injuredseniorpodcast.com and sign up for our newsletter. To find out more or to get help at any time, visit injuredseniorpodcast.com or call 855-622-6530. That's 855-622-6530.